The president, of course, has been saying that he wants to target China. Now we're getting indications when it comes to these threatened tariffs that, he's getting the desired result. They seem to be blinking on a couple of things here. And that surprised a lot of folks that he might be able to have them make concessions or give something back to avoid the implementation of these tariffs, I think, in 43 days or something.
But this is his style, you guys. This is how, a long time ago when he used to negotiate with real estate, he would walk into, we were talking about this in the green room, he would walk into a boardroom and just say something explosive and just turn around and leave, leaving everybody else to pick up the pieces.
That's why no banks dealt with him.
Well, but then he would come back and negotiate. This is what he was doing on the national stage in the White House.
Let's be real clear. Donald Trump, the financier, banker. Just let me make this clear.
Have to deal with it now.
There's a reason why no U.S. bank ever dealt with him, because they felt they were screwed over, and they felt he was a lousy businessman. Now I'm just going to tell you, and all those casinos went belly up, as you know. All I can tell you is this: when you start playing around with trade, listen, maybe he backed off. I mean, if it looks like Mnuchin's out there over the weekend, this Treasury Secretary, basically saying, it's not such a big thing. It looks like the Trump administration has backed off a lot of this tariff stuff.
We should say Treasury Secretary Mnuchin on the wire is now saying he's hopeful the U.S. can make a deal with China to avoid any of these tariffs taking effect. Similarly, the Chinese have responded to say, we, too, are hopeful that we can reach an accord that will be in each side's mutual.
It sounds like there's a deal to be had there, similar to what happened with the steel deal that went on, spooked to the market a few weeks ago. If the president is trying to get fair trade, I'm all for it. I believe that it should be, not that we should have more than them, and I said this a few weeks ago when we talked steel. If he's looking for a fair, balanced playing field, I'm all for it. I don't see what the issue is at all.
All right. Yeah. Other presidents of both parties have tried this, right? And the one thing where this president is right is the Chinese and others have screwed us for decades.
Particularly the Chinese.
Our response has always been we would try to work within that system. The argument being that in the case of the Chinese, we need them because they hold our debt, et cetera, et cetera. This is a president who said, well, they need us a lot more than we need them. Do you subscribe to that view?
Absolutely, especially with the intellectual property. Think about, the theft with the intellectual property. This was really bad. And a lot of Democrats, everybody agreed that this was bad. So I think that what's happening right now, I think this is really good. And I think that this negotiation style, while it didn't work, with the U.S. banks, it's working. It's working now because no other president, to my knowledge, has gotten them to come to the table and now start the negotiations.
Where will they come to the table? He wants to pair what is a $375, $400 billion trade gap to by $100 billion. Now they're talking about buying, to your point, more semiconductors, more computer chips, that sort of thing. Will that be enough to salve a lot of the bad feelings?
I think it will be, because I think, like any negotiation, there has to have two parties that are willing to go negotiate, to give and take a little bit and find a level playing field. The fact that this has been happening this way for so long, I don't think means it's okay. I think the president's looking at it, and this and a lot of other trade deals, not just China-specific, but saying, hey, I want to renegotiate these deals. And if that's in the best interest of the American people, I'm all for it.
All right, let me flip around, because there's another development here. This flies in the face of the cozy talks the president had with Xi Jinping back when he first came to the White House. So he can get tough on them. It is. The same with the Russians. Everyone thought he was, in their hip pocket, that he wouldn't get tough with them. Now, of course, comes news that he is calling back 60 diplomats, that sort of thing. Is that a sign that he can surprise you, or is this something that was so egregious that he had to act?
I think it's so egregious. I mean, those other sanctions that I guess people were talking about, he was late to imposing them. Or, I think Chris Wallace brought that up when he was interviewing Sean Spicer recently. I mean, listen, I think what Vladimir Putin did was so bad. I mean, if we have good intelligence that he planned a murder of somebody, and you don't expel, and by the way, people that are, allies of ours, and you don't expel, and that's the minimum. I mean, he also, as you remember, called up Putin and congratulated him. I mean, He does boggle the mind on how
Well,
he
he
deals with
congratulated him in a quick phone call on his reelection. Now, a lot of people pounced on that. Barack Obama did do the same thing.
Well, didn't Winston Churchill call Stalin on his birthday back in the day?
Yeah, but he didn't just.
I don't know. How would you do that? To you? But, you know, I'm curious, Mike, about what this says, because it's always unpredictable. And I know people have strong views on this subject as to whether the president should have done any of this. But if you are of the opinion that he is just bouncing to the Russian tune and afraid to take him on, he did in a very clear way. Now, against much global pressure that said he should have done this. And he might have telegraphed it to Putin himself. Look, this is coming. I can't avoid it. But between this and how he has acted with the Chinese, will it dispel people of the notion that he can't be tough to the very people he's been cozy to?
I don't see how that notion even exists, Neil. If you look at the facts, like, I think he's has shown a willingness to stand up to both friends, like to the North and South, Canada and Mexico, and also stand up for America's interests to China, to North Korea.
I don't know.
I
mean, he was, for a while, he was much tougher on our Canadian friends than he was on China, than he was on Russia.
Well, in the media, yes, but like you say, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But it seems
Do you
like
think there's a method to this? That this is not just happening by circumstance?
I think, for instance, look at North Korea. I think for a fact something happened there to bring them to the table. What it is, I don't know if we'll ever know.
Steve Bannon had said that overture has much to do with, that is the tariff stuff, has much to do with finding a solution on North Korea. Do you buy that?
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's too clever by half.
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, these things are, you know, there's sometimes there's more than just one reason why something happens.
Right.
Listen, here's the thing. I do worry.
The markets like it. Bottom line, the markets like it. And that's the prism through which I'm watching this right now.
I think
if the markets were concerned that this was phony or not real, for the time being, they are not.
But Putin likes to drive a wedge.
Now they're not. Now they're not. You're right.
Putin likes to drive a wedge, and he's done that.
Yeah.
And now we are now aligned with the EU and Britain. We're now all as a gathered force together against Russia, which is good.
But we don't
in
know.
a roundabout
you
way.
don't know. It could change tomorrow.
But I mean,
you
Trump
will never give him the benefit of the doubt.
Trump is a blunt force object.
Right.
Okay.
So the same has been said of you, young man.
Yeah. When I break news, it's usually very straight.
When you break news, we fix it.
Yeah. But Trump is a blunt force, and I think just the notion of him holding sensitive trade talks is something the markets don't yet buy. Okay.
But the markets, and Mike was ahead of this. To be very fair, that there might be an unexpected positive to come of this, and the first president to take on the Chinese and get them to blink. If that happens, then he's suddenly a genius here.
And if you can switch the focus, talking about the markets, back to the U.S. economy and how businesses across the country feel, this pullback that you're seeing of 11% off our highs is a screaming buying opportunity.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't once mention Stormy Daniels.
Thank God.
Did you watch it?
No, I did not.
Big letdown.
Zero burger.
All right. Good.
I was like,
Well, we're not going to milk that story. All right, now.